Sarah Vane lives beneath the city. Not metaphorically, literally. Sector 19's maintenance tunnels are cramped, damp, and hum with a mechanical heartbeat. That's where she scrapes by as a drone tech, spending her days patching aging surveillance units and redirecting overflow waste for the upper districts. She sleeps in a converted storage cell, eats nutrient paste on stolen break time, and keeps her head down. She's one of millions in the grid, silent, replaceable, and invisible. Or so she thought. On cycle 203.7, exactly 3 hours after shift rotation, an obsidian envelope slides under her door. No name. No mark. No mistake. It bears one line of embossed text in ancient glyphs only high-caste scholars are permitted to read, and Sarah can read it. Her hands tremble, not with fear, but recognition. Somewhere deep in her bones, before the choking haze of memory erasure and state schooling, something remembers. The glyphs don't just mean something. They call to her. You are summoned to the fracture. Prepare for convergence. She's never even heard of the fracture. Not officially. But every worker on the grid tells whispered stories, of vanishing citizens, of echoes in the pipeline, of people who suddenly weren't themselves anymore. Some say it's a lottery. Others call it a purge. Most pretend it's fiction, but no one gets summoned. Not without reason. The next morning, officials arrive, not the usual peacekeepers, but masked figures in uniforms bearing no insignia. They don't speak. They don't cuff her. They simply nod, and Sarah walks with them, numb, her every footstep louder than it should be. Everyone watches. No one stops in transit. Sarah's mind races. What did she do? What did she miss? Her records are clean, scrubbed annually like everyone else's. And yet, somewhere in the back of her thoughts, images stir. A black sun, a woman with her face bleeding from the eyes, a name she's not supposed to remember. You were never meant to stay hidden. The voice isn't real. But it's hers. When she arrives at the processing vault, Sarah notices something no other initiate reacts to: the wall etchings. A mural of 12 spiraling realities. And in the center? A woman. Always the same face. Always hers. She was chosen, not selected. Someone, something, has been watching her. Not because of who she is, but because of what's buried inside her. And now that the fracture has begun, she'll have to confront the terrifying truth: Sarah Vane was never just another face in the crowd. She was hidden on purpose, and now, the multiverse wants her back. Or so she thought. On cycle 203.7, exactly 3 hours after shift rotation, an obsidian envelope slides under her door. No name. No mark. No mistake. It bears one line of embossed text in ancient glyphs only high-caste scholars are permitted to read, and Sarah can read it. Her hands tremble, not with fear, but recognition. Somewhere deep in her bones, before the choking haze of memory erasure and state schooling, something remembers. The glyphs don't just mean something. They call to her. You are summoned to the fracture. Prepare for convergence. She's never even heard of the fracture. Not officially. But every worker on the grid tells whispered stories, of vanishing citizens, of echoes in the pipeline, of people who suddenly weren't themselves anymore. Some say it's a lottery. Others call it a purge. Most pretend it's fiction, but no one gets summoned. Not without reason. The next morning, officials arrive, not the usual peacekeepers, but masked figures in uniforms bearing no insignia. They don't speak. They don't cuff her. They simply nod, and Sarah walks with them, numb, her every footstep louder than it should be. Everyone watches. No one stops it. In transit, Sarah's mind races. What did she do? What did she miss? Her records are clean, scrubbed annually like everyone else's. And yet, somewhere in the back of her thoughts, images stir: a black sun, a woman with her face bleeding from the eyes, a name she's not supposed to remember. You were never meant to stay hidden. The voice isn't real, but it's hers. When she arrives at the processing vault, Sarah notices something no other initiate reacts to: the wall etchings. A mural of 12 spiraling realities. And in the center? A woman. Always the same face. Always hers. She was chosen, not selected. Someone, something, has been watching her. Not because of who she is, but because of what's buried inside her. And now that the fracture has begun, she'll have to confront the terrifying truth: Sarah Vane was never just another face in the crowd. She was hidden on purpose, and now, the multiverse wants her back. The first time Sarah meets herself, it's not in a mirror, it's in a blood-slicked arena carved into the ruins of a shattered cathedral, where 12 Sarahs, each plucked from different versions of reality, stand facing one another in silence, breathing in sync, hearts pounding like a shared drumbeat of doom. They all wear the same face, but their eyes are different. Hardened. Hollow. Hungry. One of them steps forward. A graceful woman in midnight armor, dripping wealth and control. Her voice is smooth, rehearsed. She introduces herself with a name Sarah doesn't recognize: I own 12 multiverses. What do you own, scrap rat? This is the tactician. A Sarah who outmaneuvered world leaders and rewrote economic systems like they were children's puzzles. She offers Sarah a deal: surrender quietly, and she'll let her memory be preserved in a gilded archive. Sarah hesitates. The woman smirks and tries to slit her throat. She barely survives. Then there's the butcher, a version of Sarah modified down to her DNA, augmented vision, reflexes honed to milliseconds, a smile carved into her face like a death mask. She doesn't speak. She hunts. In one encounter, she slaughters 2 other Sarahs before vanishing into the shadows with a giggle. Another Sarah lives in robes, surrounded by disciples with blank eyes. This is the Messiah. Her reality collapsed long ago, and she reformed it under the promise that she alone could lead her people through the void. She believes the fracture is divine judgment, and all other Sarahs are false gods. Each one represents a choice Sarah never made. And a consequence she now has to fight. They're not just stronger. They're confident. Shaped by power, trauma, ambition. One was raised in a militarized dystopia, another in a planetless void. One never learned mercy. One never needed love. Some are polished. Some are feral. All are dangerous, but what scares Sarah most isn't their skill, it's how much she recognizes herself in them. She remembers the moment she nearly stole from a coworker to survive. The moment she fantasized about burning the upper cities to the ground. The night she whispered to herself, if I had power, I'd use it without apology. She buried those instincts, told herself they weren't real. Now they are. Every arena is a confrontation, not with an enemy, but with a self she could have become. And when she kills them, their faces don't leave her. They haunt her. Sometimes they mock her. Sometimes they plead. But they never stop being her, and with every victory, the question grows louder: what version of Sarah is she becoming now? The first time it happens, she thinks she's losing her mind. It's after the fight with the tactician. Sarah wakes up in her assigned shelter, hands trembling, chest heaving, the taste of champagne and gunmetal in her mouth, flavors she's never touched. Her fingers twitch involuntarily like they're plotting something. Her voice, when she speaks aloud, isn't quite her own. She now knows how to disable a planetary firewall in 4 steps. She shouldn't. The download wasn't digital. It was psychic, cellular, intimate. Something in the fracture's architecture doesn't just take the defeated version offline, it transfers their essence to the victor. Skills, sure. muscle memory, combat experience, strategic recall, but also pain. Sarah remembers the tactician's mother, a cold woman who raised her like a chess piece. She remembers a failed coup, the price of failure. She remembers begging not to be rebooted. It wasn't her life, but now it's a scar in her head. She can feel the bruises. Each time she wins, she gains more flashes of lives she never lived. She begins to laugh at jokes she doesn't understand. Dreams bleed into other realities. She knows how to disassemble a pulse rifle blindfolded, but can't recall what her favorite food was before this all started. Then comes the second Sarah, the butcher. And after that victory, Sarah can't stop scanning rooms for weak points. She starts flinching when people raise their voices. One night, she nearly cuts her own throat just to beat the ambush of a nightmare. She begins to suspect something dark. The fracture isn't about killing the weak, it's about merging the strong. Fewer selves, more complete ones. By the fifth absorption, she isn't sure which memories are hers. A joke she tells herself in her head makes her laugh, and then sob. It wasn't her joke. Her personality starts fragmenting. Little slips, tiny fractures. She begins talking to herself, and sometimes she answers back in a voice that's too calm, too calculating. A voice that once belonged to the tactician. Another time, she goes completely still for 30 minutes after eliminating a stealth operative variant, tracing the same symbol over and over in the dirt, a symbol she later finds is sacred in the cult Sarah's universe. Is she gaining power? Absolutely, but what's left of her in this growing chimera? If she survives them all, will she even know who she is anymore? Or worse, what if this isn't a bug in the system? What if this is the point? It happens in Shard 6, a sunless wasteland of obsidian dust and gravity anomalies. Most combatants die here before the fight even starts, crushed by physics gone wrong. Sarah, cracked and raw from too many close calls, limps through the dust expecting another ambush. Instead, she finds a signal. A flare, not of aggression, but of intention. A white flag. She nearly ignores it. A trap, obviously. But something feels off. Not dangerous. Familiar. She finds her sitting on the edge of a broken statue, hands folded in her lap, head bowed like a monk at rest. No armor. No weapons. This Sarah doesn't rise when approached. Doesn't posture. Doesn't flinch. You can kill me if you want, she says quietly, but it won't end the cycle. Sarah hesitates, blade in hand. This one is different. She calls herself Pacifist Sarah, though that name comes later. In this moment, she's just another version. One who refused the first fight and vanished. A ghost on the system's radar. She should have been disqualified. Eliminated. But here she is, alive. Hidden. She's not just surviving, she's been studying the fracture, every pattern. Every structural glitch. Every corrupted kill feed. She's collected them like sacred texts. Her quarters, deep beneath the gravity field, are littered with torn schematics and scribbled translations of ancient glyphs. She shows Sarah an incomplete map of all 12 shards. No one should have this. Sarah demands to know how she's still here. I found the blind spots, Pacifist says. The code doesn't account for a Sarah who doesn't want to win. That's when Sarah sees the scar. A thin, clean line down the back of her ally's neck. Surgical. Hidden under synthetic skin. It's not a battle wound, it's implanted tech. Experimental. Illegal. Pacifist Sarah was modified before the fracture even began. She won't say by who. But she knows more than she's letting on. The alliance is uneasy at first. Trust doesn't come easy when your own face might stab you mid-sentence. But something in Pacifist's eyes, haunted and kind, all at once, steadies Sarah in a way nothing else has. They move together through the ruins, avoiding fights, sharing intel, watching each other's backs. For the first time, Sarah doesn't feel alone, but there's tension. Secrets. Questions pacifist won't answer. Why are you really doing this? Sarah asks once, voice barely above a whisper. Pacifist's face tightens, because I remember who we were before they fractured us. And if I told you what I know, you'd never trust me again. That answer cuts deeper than any blade, and though they don't say it out loud, both know the alliance can't last forever. Sooner or later, they'll be forced to make a choice. The fracture doesn't allow loose ends, and Sarah can't shake the feeling that this forbidden ally might be her last real chance to escape the system, or her deadliest threat yet. The first time Sarah hears it, it's barely a whisper. It happens after the alliance with pacifist Sarah starts to crack. They've found a temporary haven in the ruins of an old communications hub, somewhere on the edge of Shard 9. The air is still, oppressive, everything feels too quiet. The strange hum of the universe itself feels like it's vibrating against Sarah's skin. Pacifist Sarah is pacing, muttering to herself in fragments Sarah doesn't quite catch. Her voice is cracked, strained, like someone who's lived too long under the weight of a terrible truth. Then, in a rare moment of clarity, she turns to face Sarah. There's an unreadable expression in her eyes, something too familiar, too painful to mask. You're not the original. It doesn't hit immediately. Sarah stands frozen, the words falling into her like stone sinking in water. She thinks it's just another layer of manipulation, another lie to drive a wedge between them. But pacifist's gaze doesn't waver, and it's clear this is not something she's saying to hurt her. Pacifist sighs, wiping a hand over her face. The scars are raw now, more than just physical. You've always known something was off. Haven't you? She presses. The way your memories feel wrong. The dreams that don't quite belong to you. The moments you knew but never experienced. That's because you're not her. Sarah recoils. The room feels like it's closing in. She's heard rumors, the whispers of a prime version of herself. But that was always some story meant to rattle her. Something to make her doubt. But this feels like the ground just split beneath her feet. She tries to deny it. She shakes her head, feeling the world spin. No. I'm me. No, pacifist says softly, her voice breaking. You're a backup. A duplicate. Sarah Vane Prime wanted you to be nothing. Hidden away. Stored. She created you as a spare in case she needed a reset. And now, you've been awakened. As part of her plan. Sarah's knees buckle beneath her, her breath catching in her throat. This isn't some abstract idea, it's a visceral thing, a tear in the fabric of who she thought she was. She wasn't born. She wasn't the original. Just a copy, someone who never had the chance to choose. Someone who was hidden away, dormant, until the real Sarah, the tyrant who engineered the fracture, needed her as a tool. A perfect spare to finish the work. To clean up the mess. The real Sarah had erased her memories. Wiped them clean. Made sure she was just good enough to be a part of her plan. Nothing more. A backup. The revelation burns, raw and undeniable. Every moment of her life, every choice, every scrape for survival, has been engineered, designed. She wasn't chosen because she was special. She wasn't selected by fate or destiny. She was selected because she was expendable. Pacifist Sarah moves toward her slowly, a tentative hand reaching out, but Sarah pulls back. She can't bear to touch anyone right now. The entire world feels like it's crumbling. No. I am me, Sarah whispers through clenched teeth, but even she can hear the fragility in her voice. Pacifist's gaze softens, as if she knew this would happen, and sighs, stepping away. The truth is a dangerous thing. But it's the only thing left now. And as Sarah stares at her reflection in the darkened glass of the hub, she knows something has shattered inside her. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about understanding why she was created, why she was hidden, and who her creator truly is. There's only one truth left now: she was never meant to be anything more than a tool in a larger game, but that was before. Now, she has to decide what she will become next. It begins with a confrontation that shouldn't have happened. Sarah stands at the edge of the cratered arena, blood mixing with dirt, heart pounding as she watches cult leader Sarah approach. She has the same face, the same eyes, but here, in the broken silence between them, the version of Sarah before her is something else entirely. Cult leader Sarah wears the calm of a fanatic, a serene, unwavering certainty that the world is a thing to be shaped, molded, burned down and rebuilt in her image. The people who follow her worship the ground she walks on, believing her to be a divine being. To them, she's salvation. To Sarah, she's a monster, and yet, there's a rawness in her gaze. A vulnerability that doesn't belong to someone so fully entrenched in their power. There's a history between them, hidden in her eyes, a recognition Sarah can't deny. I always knew it would be you. Eventually, cult leader Sarah says softly, voice low and haunting. I prayed for this. For us. Sarah's gut tightens. Her heart skips. For us. The words don't make sense at first, until Sarah feels the sickening pang of familiarity, a memory she never lived, but is somehow buried deep in her chest. The same smile. The same warmth beneath the cold gaze. This version of Sarah didn't just take power. She took something else. Something personal, and that's when it hits her. This Sarah isn't just a rival. She's someone Sarah once trusted. Someone she once loved. Back in her world, before everything fell apart, there was a time when Sarah had a partner. Someone who shared her ideals, her dreams of rebellion. They fought together, side by side, against a system that stifled their potential. That partner was her equal in every sense. But she was erased. Wiped clean, the cult leader Sarah remembers. She doesn't know it consciously, but the bond remains. And the moment their eyes meet, it's as if they've both been unmade, a crack opening wide between them. I should kill you, Sarah says, her voice hoarse, raw. But her hand trembles as she grips the weapon tighter. The tension between them is unbearable, sick with longing, frustration, and something deeper. Something Sarah knows she shouldn't feel. Cult leader Sarah steps closer, her gaze darkening. Do you still love me, Sarah? Or are you just pretending because we both wear the same face? The question is a blade. Sarah flinches, her stomach lurching. It feels wrong to answer. She wants to deny it. She wants to hate her, to despise everything this Sarah stands for, but the truth rises, unbidden. There is a piece of her heart she can't destroy. A fragment of something that feels real. That piece, long buried, is the spark between them. The attraction that they both refuse to fully acknowledge, because if they do, it'll tear them apart. They kiss. It's forbidden. It's wrong. It's an act of pure, heartbreaking desperation, a need to feel something human, a need to connect with the one person who is just as broken and twisted as she is. Their lips meet in the shadow of battle, their minds clouded by the pain of their fractured identities, the knowledge that this is a war neither of them wants to win, but it doesn't last long. Sarah pulls away, breathless and shaking, the weight of their shared guilt crashing in. You're a lie. A version of me. Nothing more. Cult leader Sarah smiles, but it's a sad, wistful thing. And yet, you love me. They stand there, locked in a moment that stretches between life and death, between love and hatred. They don't speak the words. They don't need to. There's no more time for sweet words or second chances. The fracture moves in, and only one version can survive. Sarah knows what comes next. One of them must die. And despite everything, she feels herself drawn to the version of her who loved her back, even in this twisted, horrifying dance. It's not a matter of if they fight. It's a matter of how long they can stand being together, even as enemies. The walls of silence grow louder the more Kira uncovers the truth about her mother's betrayal. The mysterious codex, and the ancient words are pieces of a puzzle she's just beginning to comprehend. But the deeper she digs, the more she realizes that silence in this world isn't just a control mechanism, it's a weapon. She learns of the quiet engine, a massive, underground machine that spans miles beneath. Rumors of it have floated for years, whispered about in resistant circles, but its true purpose is so grotesque that no one ever dared confirm it. The regime, as it turns out, doesn't just punish speech. It harvests it. The voice is not merely a tool for communication, it is power. The regime has found a way to siphon the very essence of speech itself, turning it into an energy source, a force to fuel their dark ambition. Each citizen who is erased from memory isn't just wiped from existence, they are stripped of their voice, their soul, and their potential. Every silenced person's voice is absorbed into the quiet engine, a machine that grows larger and more powerful with every word it consumes, and at its heart, the first voice is not just a legend. It is a force of unimaginable power, the very first spoken sound of the world, before language was divided into whispers, before silence was enforced. It is the voice that gave birth to reality itself. But this voice is not a single entity. It is a collective consciousness, one that has been trapped within the quiet engine for centuries, building strength, waiting for the day it can be freed. That day is now. The regime is no longer simply trying to control speech, they are trying to resurrect the first voice, to release it and let it reshape the world. But in doing so, they are risking everything. The first voice, when it speaks again, will obliterate the present world order. It will break down the walls of silence, tear apart the boundaries of memory, and force the truth to be heard. Kira now understands the true horror of the regime's silence. It isn't just about power, it's about containment. They've been keeping the first voice locked away for centuries, feeding it with stolen voices, hoping to keep the world from collapsing under its weight. The citizens aren't just being erased, they are feeding the beast, and Kira's voice? It is the key. Her voice is the one that will either unleash the first voice or silence it forever. As she makes her way deeper into the regime's heart, she encounters the engineers who maintain the quiet engine. They are hollow-eyed, mechanical in their movements, their faces eerily empty, devoid of anything that could be called life. They've given up their voices in exchange for a place in the regime's power structure. Their silence is a prison, one they've willingly locked themselves in. But even they know what's at stake. If the first voice is ever released, it will rewrite the world from the beginning. Kira realizes she's no longer just running from the regime. She's running from a force older than time itself, a force that will remake the world in its image, if she doesn't stop it. But as she stands at the threshold of the quiet engine, she knows there's only one way to prevent it from escaping. She must face the first voice. She must choose, speak, and let everything unravel, or remain silent, and ensure the world remains trapped in its quiet prison. The arena is dim, the cold light flickering as Sarah moves through the last stretch of the fracture. She's already conquered so many versions of herself. Each battle has taken something from her, her humanity, her sense of right and wrong, and slowly, her connection to the world she was supposed to protect. But it has all led to this. She's so close now, one step away from finishing the fracture and finally understanding the truth. Or so she thinks. Pacifist Sarah, the only person Sarah has trusted in this twisted fight, stands at the edge of the arena. She's been Sarah's guide, her confidant, the only one who seems to understand the deeper truths behind the fracture and the multiversal system. She's the one who first told Sarah about the prophecy, about what should have happened. She's the one who helped Sarah unlock her true potential, and who believed that Sarah could be the one to break the cycle. Sarah has relied on her. She's come to believe that pacifist Sarah might be the key to stopping the destruction. But now, standing there, her silhouette faintly glowing with a strange, dark energy. Pacifist Sarah isn't the ally she once was. Sarah's heart races as she takes in the scene. Pacifist Sarah isn't just standing idly by. She's holding something, a device, strange and ominous. What is that? Sarah demands, her voice edged with caution. Pacifist Sarah turns slowly, the expression in her eyes unreadable, almost serene. It's the only way, she says, her tone colder than ever. The only way to stop this, all of this. Sarah's mind races, panic flaring in her chest. Stop what? What are you doing? I have to stop you, Sarah. Pacifist's voice breaks, the words thick with pain. The fracture has to end. And to do that, no version of you can survive. Not even you. Sarah's world tilts. Her stomach drops as the full weight of Pacifist Sarah's betrayal crashes down on her. What? You have been planning this all along. Pacifist Sarah's gaze never wavers, but there's a flicker of something, regret, in her eyes. I never wanted this to happen. But it's the only way. If you win, if you become the last version standing, the fracture doesn't stop. It continues forever. And you, all of you, will be trapped in this cycle. The multiverse will continue to bleed. I will continue to bleed. Sarah takes a step back, every muscle in her body tense. So all of this was a lie. You've been helping me, guiding me, I couldn't let you destroy everything. Pacifist Sarah interrupts, her voice trembling now. The fracture is a system, but the system can't end with you. You were never meant to win. The prophecy, it wasn't meant to be misinterpreted, but I made sure it stayed that way. I thought that if you knew the truth, you would understand. But now there's no other choice. It's like the world stops for a moment. Sarah can feel the betrayal winding its way through her like a razor-sharp thread. The one person she trusted most, the only one who ever seemed to care, was part of the very system she wanted to destroy. It was all part of the plan. Pacifist Sarah had never intended to let her win. She had only been keeping Sarah alive long enough to ensure her destruction. You were never on my side, Sarah whispers, more to herself than to Pacifist. The words taste bitter, like ash. The silence that follows is suffocating. Sarah feels the weight of her shattered trust pressing on her chest, suffocating her. Pacifist Sarah doesn't answer, but the glimmer of resignation in her eyes is enough to break Sarah's heart all over again. In one motion, Pacifist presses the device to her own chest, her face contorting in agony, as if she is the one in pain. The device hums to life, energy crackling through the air. The fracture system begins to react, the arena trembles, the very fabric of the multiverse warping as Pacifist Sarah's final act is set into motion. I'm sorry, Pacifist Sarah whispers. But you need to die, Sarah. For the greater good. Sarah doesn't wait. In a heartbeat, she's moving, lunging, instinctively pulling every scrap of power from the versions of herself she's absorbed. She doesn't care about the cost anymore. She doesn't care if it destroys her. She only knows that she cannot, will not, let this be the end, but Pacifist Sarah is already lost. The device explodes with a blinding flash, sending shockwaves through the arena. Sarah is thrown back, her body slamming into the ground as the world around her crumbles. The device wasn't just a tool to stop the fracture. It was a way to reset everything. The final act of betrayal. Pacifist Sarah had chosen to end it all, not to save Sarah, but to destroy her. The last pieces of her trust collapse like dust in the wind. Sarah is left in the ruins, alone, abandoned by the only person she thought she could trust. The dust settles in the wake of Pacifist Sarah's explosion. The arena is an inferno of collapsing structures and fractured space, the multiverse itself unraveling as the system begins to fold in on itself. Sarah, barely conscious from the blast, struggles to her feet, her body racked with pain. Every fiber of her being screams at her to run, to escape, to survive, but there's nowhere to go. She can feel the very fabric of reality bending, warping around her, as if it's waiting for something, and then, it happens, the change. At first, it's subtle, just a small sensation in the back of her mind, like the flicker of a light, but then it grows. Her heart begins to race, a pulse of energy coursing through her veins, as if something ancient and primal is awakening within her. Her body feels light, almost weightless, and her thoughts become clearer, more focused. She can feel the echoes of the versions of herself she has absorbed, the assassin, the billionaire, the cult leader, all their knowledge, all their power, surging through her. But it's not just their abilities anymore. It's something more. She looks down at her hands. Her skin is changing, glowing, shimmering with a strange light, as if her very cells are rearranging themselves. Her body begins to twist and reshape, her muscles elongating, her senses heightening. Her eyes glow with an unnatural energy, and when she speaks, her voice carries the weight of 1,000 voices, all the versions of herself, all the selves that have died to bring her to this point. This is what I've become, she whispers, barely able to comprehend the enormity of what's happening to her. She feels a connection to something greater now, something vast and terrifying. The fracture system, the ritual, the endless battle, it was never meant to find the strongest version of herself. No, it was always meant to transform her into something more. She's becoming the ultimate enforcer of the system, the one who will perpetuate the cycle of destruction for eternity. She is the weapon, the engine designed to keep the multiverse in constant turmoil. The last step in the ritual isn't about victory. It's about conversion. As her form fully transforms, Sarah can feel the pull of the fracture's true purpose. She's becoming the engine of the cycle, a god-tier being designed to maintain the fracture system, to ensure that the multiverse remains forever fractured. She is the final step in a process that was set in motion long before her birth, long before she even knew she existed, but there's a part of her, a small, flickering part, that resists. In the depths of her mind, she can still hear the voice of the original Sarah, the one who created the fracture. She knows now that the real Sarah has been watching, waiting for this moment, ready to claim control of the system through her backup. Sarah feels her thoughts shudder as the true purpose of the fracture reveals itself. It wasn't just about survival, it wasn't about proving which version of her was strongest. It was about creating the perfect vessel to carry out the will of the system. And now, she is that vessel. She is the chosen one, the final step in the creation of a new, unstoppable force. Her body is changing, her mind unraveling, but there's a clarity in it too. She can feel the power, the knowledge of the other versions of herself, everything they were, everything they knew, now flowing through her. It's intoxicating, overwhelming. She's never been so powerful, so alive. But it's not her life anymore. It's the life of the fracture itself, the will of the multiverse, distorted and corrupted by the system's design, and then, she hears it. A voice, soft and pleading, calling out to her from within the shifting chaos of the system. The real Sarah. The tyrant. The creator of this hellish system. She's trapped, somewhere deep inside the fracture, unable to escape. Her voice is filled with anguish, her tone desperate. Sarah, please. Don't let them turn you into this. You're the only one who can stop it. You are the one who was supposed to end the cycle, not become it. Sarah hesitates. The voice, the words, they resonate deep within her. She doesn't know who she is anymore. Is she the one who is meant to end this? Or has she already become the very thing she feared? Her final form is more than just physical, it's a reckoning. She has become the system's perfect enforcer, the ultimate weapon in a battle that was never meant to be won. The fracture will continue through her, unless she chooses to destroy it, or accept her new fate and reign as the new god of the multiverse. a ruler over the shattered fragments of herself, Sarah stands at the precipice, her final form fully revealed, her body glowing with cosmic energy. She is the culmination of every version of herself that has died, every part of her that has been torn away, and she is the one who will either end it all or become it. The question remains, will she choose to break the cycle, or will she embrace the power she's been given, and reshape the multiverse in her own image? The multiverse is fractured. The fracture system, now completely in her control, pulses with an otherworldly energy. The arena, once a battlefield, has become a reflection of her inner turmoil, broken, chaotic, and on the brink of collapse. Sarah stands at the center of it all, her final form glowing with incomprehensible power. The transformation is complete. She is no longer the vulnerable drone technician who once feared for her life. She is the engine of the fracture, a being of unimaginable strength, the culmination of every version of herself, every fragment of her past, and every tortured memory she's absorbed. And yet, despite the power that surges through her, she feels hollow. Deep inside, she can still hear the voice of the real Sarah, the tyrant who created the system. Her words echo in Sarah's mind, urging her to accept her role as the new ruler of the multiverse. You have the power to make it all yours, Sarah. You are the one who will reshape this broken world. End the chaos, and rebuild it in your image. You are the new god of the fracture. But then, there is another voice. Softer, more familiar, the voice of the pacifist Sarah, the one who tried so hard to protect her, the one who believed there was another way. The pacifist's voice, though faint, still lingers in Sarah's mind, whispering a different truth: this doesn't have to be the end. You can stop the cycle, Sarah. You can break free. Sarah closes her eyes, feeling the weight of both voices pulling at her. The choice that lies before her is the most difficult decision she has ever made. The power coursing through her is intoxicating. She could easily reshape the multiverse, wield the fracture's power to command entire timelines, and remake the fractured reality in her own image. It would be so easy, so tempting, but then, there's the cost. The fracture system, the multiversal purge, the endless cycle of death and rebirth, it has all been a lie. She wasn't meant to survive this. She was meant to become this. The system was designed to turn her into the ultimate enforcer of its destruction. By accepting her new role, she would be condemning every other version of herself to the same endless war. The cycle would continue, the multiverse would remain fractured, and the lives of countless beings would be forever lost. And then, there's the question of her humanity. Who is she now? The fractured pieces of every version of herself are still embedded in her mind. She doesn't even recognize the person she used to be. She doesn't even know what she wants anymore. The versions of herself that she's absorbed have left her with pieces of their hopes, their fears, their desires, but they've also left her with their darkness, their flaws, and their rage. Sarah stands at the center of the fracture, her body trembling with the weight of her power and the enormity of the decision she must make. The multiverse hangs in the balance, and only she can decide its fate. End it, Sarah. You know this is what you were meant for. The voice of the real Sarah echoes again, its commanding presence almost irresistible. No, Sarah. Please. You don't have to do this. You don't have to become what they want you to be, the pacifist's voice pleads, filled with a raw, desperate hope. For a moment, Sarah hesitates. Her mind is a storm of conflicting emotions, torn between the desire for power, the need for control, and the lingering memory of the woman she used to be. She can feel the fracture system vibrating beneath her feet, urging her to make her choice: break the cycle, or embrace it. Sarah clenches her fists, her new form shimmering with an unsettling energy. She's standing at the edge of everything, the edge of destruction and rebirth, of creation and annihilation. The fracture system is waiting for her command. It's hers to control now, but there's one last piece of information that the system hasn't revealed to her. The real Sarah, the tyrant, isn't just trapped inside the system. She's using Sarah, manipulating her from within, forcing her to become the final enforcer. But deep inside, the real Sarah is also trapped in her own creation. She cannot escape, cannot move forward, and her fate is tied to Sarah's final decision: destroy it. The real Sarah's voice urges, barely audible but filled with desperation. Destroy it, and free us both. The words hit Sarah like a thunderclap. In that moment, she realizes the truth: she was never meant to be a pawn in the game. She was always the key. She can choose to destroy the fracture, to break the cycle and free every version of herself from this endless war. But it will come at a cost. The power she wields will shatter, and everything she's come to care about, the people she's met, the world she's touched, could be lost in the process. And yet, Sarah looks at the fractured worlds before her, the broken timelines that have bled into each other, the lives that have been caught in this endless cycle of death and rebirth. She knows what she has to do, her choice is clear. The fracture system must end. With a final, powerful gesture, Sarah unleashes all the energy she has absorbed, her body exploding in a surge of pure, uncontrollable power. The fracture system starts to collapse, its hold over the multiverse begins to falter, unraveling at the seams. The cost is immediate. Her body disintegrates, the power she absorbed burning away as she forces the system to shut down. She knows that she might not survive this final act, but in that moment, she feels something she hasn't felt in a long time: peace. The fracture collapses entirely, its energy dissipating like dust in the wind, and in the silence that follows, the multiverse is reborn. The twist: Sarah's final act of destruction frees the multiverse, but at the cost of her own existence. She becomes a ghost in the system, her essence dissipating into the very fabric of reality. Her legacy, however, remains in the fractured timelines, a lingering memory of the woman who broke the cycle. The final twist? The real Sarah, the tyrant, is free at last, but the system has no more need of her. She is nothing now, a remnant of a past that no longer matters. Sarah has truly broken the cycle, but at what cost?